A blade of steel cannot pass between these ancient stones. The impossible stone walls of the Andes stand as a silent challenge to our understanding of history. By the end of this journey, you will see the entire timeline of human civilization in a startling new light. We will investigate how these blocks, harder than granite, were cut with laser-like precision and moved across impossible distances. We will ask who possessed such forgotten knowledge, how much of our ancient past remains a secret to us today. This multi-ton andesite block began its life deep within the earth, forged under immense heat and pressure. Its journey to become part of a wall is a puzzle that starts at the quarry. Andesite is not a simple stone to work with. It is an igneous rock born from volcanic activity, and it ranks high on the Mohs scale of mineral hardness. To put that in plain terms, andesite is significantly harder than granite. Shaping it with primitive tools would be like trying to carve a diamond with a copper chisel. Yet the builders did not just shape it, they sourced it in staggering quantities from quarries located miles away. Geologists have traced the origins of specific stones to sites separated from their final resting places by deep ravines and fast-moving rivers. Imagine the task of moving a single 100-ton block, a slab the size of a small house, across such a broken landscape. The logistical nightmare is almost beyond comprehension. Theories on how they managed this feat range from the plausible to the extraordinary. The conventional explanation involves thousands of workers hauling the stones on log rollers, dragging them up earthen ramps, and floating them on reed boats during seasonal floods. While this sounds reasonable in theory, the practical application on such a scale, with stones of such immense weight and over such difficult terrain, pushes the limits of credibility. The friction alone would have been astronomical, requiring a Herculean and constant application of force. This has led to more speculative ideas. Perhaps the builders possessed a lost knowledge of acoustics, using specific sound frequencies to reduce friction or even levitate the stones. Maybe they understood principles of anti-gravity, manipulating the very weight of the rock to make it float into place. While these ideas sound like science fiction, the raw scale of the problem forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our standard historical timeline may be missing a chapter, one that featured a culture with a technological prowess we are only beginning to grasp. The mystery of how they moved the stone, however, pales in comparison to the enigma of how they shaped it. The true enigma begins not with the movement of the stones, but with their shaping. Run your hand over the joints of these ancient walls, and you would feel no seam, no ridge, no gap. The surfaces of neighboring blocks conform to one another with a complexity that defies simple explanation. They are not simple, flat planes. Many feature multi-angled cuts, with protrusions on one stone fitting perfectly into corresponding indentations on its neighbor, creating a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle locked in stone. This is not just stacking, it is a form of lithic knitting. The precision is so acute that, in countless places, you cannot force a single sheet of paper between the stones. This is a level of accuracy we associate with modern machine shops and laser cutters, not with a civilization using stone and bronze. Mainstream archaeology proposes that this was achieved with stone hammers, sand abrasives, and an almost unimaginable amount of patient labor. Skilled artisans would have pecked away at the rock with harder stones, then ground the surfaces flat using sand and water. In theory, with enough time and people, you can achieve a flat surface. But theory collides with reality when you examine the microscopic perfection of these joints. The surfaces are not just flat, they are seamlessly contoured. How do you perfectly shape the inside of a concave depression to match the exact convex curve of the incoming block using only a piece of sandpaper? Modern stonemasons and engineers who have tried to replicate these fits often find the task nearly impossible without advanced measuring tools and machinery. The sheer consistency across thousands of blocks points to a standardized, highly efficient technique, not just endless hand grinding. Perhaps the most baffling clue is the absence of tool marks on the finished surfaces. While rough, unworked sections of the same walls show clear signs of pounding and grinding, the final fitted faces are often eerily smooth. This suggests a finishing process, a lost technology that could polish and perfect the stone without leaving a trace. Was it some form of chemical treatment that softened the rock surface just enough to be molded, or a thermal process that fused the outer layer? The method remains a secret, but its result is undeniable. This incredible precision was not for show. It is the very reason these walls have survived countless earthquakes that have leveled later constructions. The interlocking blocks move and settle as a single monolithic unit, dissipating seismic energy. As we stand before these impossible joints, a single question demands an answer. What kind of tools, what forgotten art, could possibly leave such a perfect, unmarked surface on stone harder than granite? These seamless surfaces force us to ask what kind of tools could possibly have created them. Envision a workshop where master craftsmen shape granite and andesite as if it were soft clay, yet their tools leave no trace behind them. This is the second great mystery, the search for the instruments themselves. Archaeologists have found copper chisels and bronze tools in the region, but these metals are simply too soft to effectively quarry, cut, and polish stone of such immense hardness. Trying to work andesite with a copper tool would be like trying to carve a brick with a stick of butter. So what did they use? One possibility lies in a technique called thermal shock. This involves building a hot fire directly against the stone face and then rapidly cooling it with water. The sudden temperature change creates immense stress, causing the rock to fracture along a predictable line. It is a method known to other ancient cultures and could explain how massive blocks were initially separated from the bedrock. Yet, while thermal shock can split stone, it cannot create the intricate, interlocking joints and perfectly polished surfaces we see. The process is inherently crude, leaving a characteristically rough and fractured face, not a smooth, machined one. This has led to other, more speculative ideas. Perhaps the builders possessed tools tipped with diamonds, a material hard enough to scratch and grind the toughest stone. Or maybe they used a form of chemical dissolution, applying a plant-based solvent that temporarily softened the rock's surface, allowing it to be molded and shaped before it rehardened. The problem is a profound lack of evidence. No diamond tools have ever been unearthed at these sites. No chemical residues have been identified on the stone. The quarries themselves present another layer of intrigue. At most ancient megalithic sites, you expect to find massive piles of debris, countless broken tools, and discarded blocks that failed during shaping. Here, that evidence is strangely scarce. It is as if the construction process was remarkably clean and efficient, producing very little waste. Materials scientists who study the physics of stone cutting point out the incredible forces required. To achieve such perfect surface conformity, the builders needed to apply controlled, consistent pressure with an abrasive harder than the andesite itself. They would have needed a way to measure their progress with microscopic accuracy repeatedly for every single block. This points to something far beyond simple brute force and patience. It suggests a sophisticated knowledge system, a complete understanding of material science and geometry that was applied with stunning consistency. The real tool may not have been a physical object at all, but the forgotten knowledge itself, a set of instructions so effective that it transformed an impossibly difficult task into a manageable one. The search for the hammer and chisel inevitably leads us to a far more profound question. What kind of mind could conceive of such a perfect structure, and what happened to that knowledge? The very ground these walls stand on has tried to destroy them for centuries. The Andes is one of the most seismically active regions on Earth, a land constantly shaken by immense and violent earthquakes. Modern cities built nearby have crumbled, yet these ancient structures remain, having weathered countless tremors for over 1,000 years. This is no accident of sturdy materials. It is the third and perhaps most brilliant mystery, a form of anti-seismic engineering so advanced it feels almost prescient. The secret lies not in rigid strength, but in controlled movement. The walls were designed to dance, without a single drop of mortar holding them together. The interlocking stones are free to shift and settle during a quake. They absorb and dissipate the energy, swaying as a single, flexible unit before settling back into place, often with an even tighter fit than before. This principle is what modern structural engineers call dynamic load management. It is a concept we use in skyscrapers today, yet it was perfected here in stone in antiquity. Look closer at the architecture, and the genius reveals itself in the details. The walls themselves slope slightly inward, a subtle design that lowers the center of gravity and increases stability. The doors and niches are not rectangular but trapezoidal, a shape that distributes stress far more effectively and prevents the formation of catastrophic cracks during shaking. And of course, there are the stones themselves, that incredible three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Each irregular block, with its complex angles and corresponding pockets, locks its neighbors in place, allowing for microscopic shifts but preventing any major collapse. Structural engineers who study these walls express a kind of professional awe. They point out that this is a passive damping system of sublime elegance. There are no moving parts, no metal reinforcements, just pure, intelligent geometry and physics. The builders did not fight the power of the earthquake. They understood it, respected it, and designed a structure that could work with it. This was not construction for a king's lifetime, but for an epoch. It represents a profound understanding of the environment and a responsibility to the future that is humbling. Such foresight forces us to reconsider the intellectual world of these people. What kind of civilization possessed not only the technical skill to shape impossible stones, but the scientific vision to make them immortal? This level of sophistication points to a deep and sustained tradition of knowledge, a school of thought that has since vanished into the high mountain air. The authorship of these walls is a question that divides history from legend. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they were told by the Inca that their own ancestors had built the masterworks of Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo. The Inca were a formidable empire, renowned for their organizational skill and their own impressive stonework. Yet, a closer look at the archaeological record reveals a profound discrepancy. The finest, most impossibly precise polygonal walls do not fit the typical Inca style. They are often the foundations upon which later, cruder Inca structures were built, like a master's canvas painted over by an apprentice. This suggests a far older origin, pointing to cultures that flourished long before the Inca Empire ever rose to power. One of the most significant of these was the Tiahuanaco culture, centered around a city on the shores of Lake Titicaca. At its height, Tiahuanaco was a major spiritual and political center, and its surviving monuments, like the Gate of the Sun, are carved from single blocks of stone with a precision that echoes the mysterious walls. But even Tiahuanaco may not be the ultimate source. Some of the most perplexing sites appear to be built upon foundations that were already ancient when the Tiahuanaco culture itself began. This creates a tantalizing, layered puzzle. How do we untangle this web of history? Expert historians point to two conflicting narratives. The first is the official Inca history, a story of divine founders and heroic kings who built these places. The second is the silent testimony of the stones themselves, which show weathering patterns and architectural styles that suggest a timeline stretching back thousands of years earlier than the Inca claim. This isn't just an academic debate, it strikes at the heart of how civilizations develop. Did the Inca independently invent this sublime masonry, or were they the inheritors and preservers of a much older, lost technology? The idea of a lost precursor civilization, a culture with advanced knowledge of stonework and engineering that influenced all who came after, moves from fringe speculation into a serious historical question. The techniques appear fully formed in the archaeological record, without evidence of a slow, gradual evolution. It is as if the knowledge arrived complete. This cultural transmission, whether through taught tradition or discovered manuscripts, implies a chain of wisdom that spanned generations, only to be broken and forgotten. To truly grasp the scale of this mystery, we must journey to the specific sites where the stones themselves tell their most compelling story. High above the modern city of Cusco, the zig-zagging walls of Sacsayhuaman carve a stark silhouette against the sky. To call this place a fortress feels almost inadequate. You are not just looking at a defensive structure, you are witnessing a mountain that has been deliberately reshaped by human hands. The scale is humbling, with some of the largest limestone blocks standing 3 times the height of a person and weighing well over 100 tons. These are not mere building materials, they are geological monuments, fitted together with that same impossible, paper-thin precision. The most famous section, the Serpent Wall, showcases this mastery in its most extreme form. Here, the stones interlock in a complex, multi-angled puzzle, with the largest blocks forming the foundation. How did they lift these behemoths, each one a small mountain in itself, and then lower them into a perfect, seamless fit with their neighbors? The conventional theory of earthen ramps becomes difficult to swallow when you see the intricate placement and the tight confines of the wall's layout. It suggests a method of placement that was both incredibly precise and powerfully controlled, a feat that challenges our understanding of ancient engineering. But Sacsayhuaman's secrets may not be purely terrestrial. Some researchers point to its strategic alignment with celestial bodies. Certain walls and rock outcrops within the complex are thought to align with the solstice sun and important stars, suggesting a dual purpose as both a fortress and a colossal astronomical observatory. This was likely a place of immense ceremonial importance, a spiritual center where the power of the earth met the cycles of the cosmos. The sheer volume of labor required to build it is a statement in itself. Estimates suggest a workforce of 20,000 people, all organized, fed, and directed for generations. This speaks of a society with a staggering degree of social organization and a singular, unwavering purpose. Sacsayhuaman is a testament to a will that could move mountains, literally. Yet, for all its overwhelming power, it is only one piece of the puzzle. To understand the full scope of this lost technology, we must travel from this fortress of giants to a temple where the stones themselves seem to have been frozen in motion. At Ollantaytambo, the mountain itself seems to have been stitched together with stone. Here, the scale of the endeavor becomes almost vertiginous. Massive red granite blocks, each one a titanic slab, were not just moved, they were somehow transported from a quarry on the opposite side of a deep valley, dragged across a rushing river, and then hauled up the steep, terraced slopes of the mountainside. The logistical puzzle is staggering. The main quarry was located miles away, separated by the turbulent Urubamba River. To bring just one of these 200-ton giants to the temple site would have been a generational task, yet they moved dozens. The conventional explanation of log rollers and ramps strains under the weight of this reality. How did they manage the descent from the quarry, the river crossing, and the final, grueling ascent without the blocks fracturing or the system collapsing? It is an engineering marvel that has never been adequately explained. The site itself is a living textbook of ancient construction. You can see a clear evolution, or perhaps a devolution, in the stonework. The foundations are made of these colossal, perfectly fitted megaliths, while the upper levels are built with smaller, rougher stones, a clear sign of later, less sophisticated repairs or additions. This stark contrast suggests that the creators of the megalithic core possessed a knowledge that was later lost or diluted. But the genius of Ollantaytambo is not confined to its grandest stones. Look closer and you find an intricate network of water channels, carved with precision and designed to direct spring water through the entire complex. These were not just practical necessities, they were an integral part of the design, blending architecture with hydrology in a way that sustained both the people and the terraced agriculture that cling to the mountain. The whole complex functions as a single, self-sustaining organism. Perhaps the most telling clues are the unfinished blocks, still lying in the quarry or abandoned along the transport route. These frozen moments in time show us the methods, or at least the beginnings of them. We see channels and grooves carved into the rock, likely points where leverage was applied or where the stone was intentionally split. Yet, these preliminary marks do not reveal the final, secret technique that created those seamless surfaces. Ollantaytambo is more than a fortress or a temple. It is a testament to a civilization that saw no separation between the practical and the sacred, between moving a mountain and honoring the sun. This profound integration of purpose leads us to ask what ultimate goal could have driven such a monumental, harmonious effort. A wall that defies simple purpose stands as a greater mystery than one whose function is clear. We are left with a profound architectural riddle. Why would a civilization invest such staggering effort, such impossible precision, into structures whose use we can only guess at? The conventional answer, echoed in many history books, is that these were fortresses. Yet, when you walk the ramparts of Sacsayhuaman, you notice a curious absence. Where are the narrow arrow slits for defenders? Where are the murder holes for dropping stones on attackers? The design, while imposing, lacks the specific features of a purely military fortification. The same holds true for many of the finest polygonal walls. They seem overbuilt for defense, their complexity serving a function beyond mere strength. Another mainstream theory proposes these were royal estates or ceremonial centers for the elite. This is more plausible, as the sites are often filled with temples and plazas. But again, the question of scale arises. Would you shape a 100-ton block with microscopic accuracy just to form the foundation of a king's house? The effort seems disproportionate, pointing to a purpose that was absolutely central to the culture's identity, something far more vital than prestige or even worship. This has led to more expansive theories. Many archaeologists point to celestial alignments. Certain walls at Sacsayhuaman catch the solstice sun at a perfect angle, and niches frame specific stars. This suggests the structures were colossal calendars or astronomical observatories, stone computers designed to track time and seasons with breathtaking accuracy. For an agricultural society, this knowledge was power, literally a matter of life and death. It transforms the sites from buildings into machines, their function woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Then we enter the realm of more speculative ideas proposed by physicists and researchers in alternative history. They note that many of these stones, particularly the granite at Ollantaytambo, are rich in quartz crystals. Quartz is piezoelectric, meaning it generates a small electrical charge under mechanical stress. In a region constantly shifting with seismic activity, could these interlocking walls have been designed to harness the Earth's energy? The constant, subtle grinding of the stones during tremors might have generated measurable electromagnetic fields. Were these places not just designed to survive earthquakes, but to use them? To transform tectonic power into something else, perhaps for healing, for energy, or for spiritual practices we can no longer comprehend. The arguments from each camp are compelling. The archaeologist sees a temple, the historian sees a fortress, the physicist sees a potential power plant. This very diversity of opinion is the most important clue. It tells us that these structures resist our modern, compartmentalized thinking. They were likely all of these things at once, and none of them exclusively. A fortress can also be a temple. An observatory can also be a generator. The separation we impose between science and spirituality, between utility and ceremony, may not have existed for their builders. Their true purpose was likely holistic, an integrated system where defense, astronomy, energy, and worship were different facets of a single, unified understanding of the world. To decipher this, we must look beyond the grand scale of the walls and focus on the smallest marks left behind, the silent language of symbols carved into the stone itself. Carved into the very fabric of these impossible walls is a silent language waiting to be read. Look past the grand scale and your eye will begin to catch subtle details, shapes and symbols etched into the stone that speak of a deeper meaning. These are not random decorations, but a deliberate iconography, a form of communication without words. Among the most persistent and fascinating of these motifs is the step and wave pattern, a design that recurs across countless blocks. It looks like a series of staircases stacked upon rolling waves. To the later Inca, this pattern was profoundly symbolic, representing their view of the cosmos, the three realms of existence. The steps symbolized the upper world, Honanpacha, the realm of the sun, moon, and stars. The middle, undulating section represented K-Pacha, our earthly world of the here and now. And the lower steps or inversions signified Uku-Pacha, the inner world or the underworld. By carving this symbol into their most enduring structures, the builders may have been consecrating the wall itself, infusing it with the balance of the entire cosmos, making it not just a physical barrier but a spiritual anchor. Then there are the niches, the empty eyes staring out from the walls. They are everywhere, and they are almost always trapezoidal in shape. This consistent form is a clear architectural choice, far beyond a simple stylistic preference. What was their purpose? One compelling theory is that they were ceremonial alcoves, designed to hold sacred idols or the mummified remains of revered ancestors, integrating the presence of gods and forebears directly into the architecture of daily life. But another, more scientific theory suggests an astronomical function. A trapezoid is an excellent frame. When strategically placed, these niches and windows could have been used as precise sighting devices, framing the rising of a particular star or the solstice sun on a specific day of the year. A single niche might be a shrine, but a series of them, aligned along a wall, becomes a calibrated instrument for tracking time. This dual potential is the essence of the mystery, where the spiritual and the scientific are not in conflict, but are two sides of the same perfectly carved stone. The profound challenge we face is that the original builders left no written records that we can decipher. Their voice comes to us only through these stone symbols, and we are forced to interpret them through the lens of the cultures that came after. primarily the Inca. This is a dangerous but necessary game of telephone across centuries. We see a symbol and we use the Inca meaning to explain it, but was that the original intent? The step and wave pattern might have held a completely different significance for the master wall builders, a meaning now lost forever. This forces us into a world of inference, of piecing together a puzzle where most of the pieces are missing. We are listening for a whisper in a hurricane, yet this silent language does more than just speak of one culture. It connects to a much larger, continent-wide puzzle. Astonishingly similar motifs, the same trapezoidal shapes and complex polygonal masonry, appear in the ruins of other great and distant American civilizations, like the Maya far to the north. This suggests the possibility of a shared, ancient knowledge base, a school of thought that spanned the Americas, influencing architecture and spirituality from the high Andes to the jungles of Central America. The stones themselves, with their cryptic carvings and impossible precision, become our only Rosetta Stone for a lost world. They are the closest we may ever get to hearing the direct voices of the builders, a silent testament to a world where every angle, every curve, and every symbol was imbued with purpose. To understand the full weight of their message, we must confront the most radical questions about their origin, moving from the symbols they left behind to the controversial timelines that challenge everything we think we know about human history. The silent language of symbols carved in the Andes finds its most extreme dialect at Puma Punku. Here, on the high plains of Bolivia, the mystery of impossible stonework intensifies into something almost otherworldly. The ruins of Puma Punku are not grand walls, but a scattered collection of shattered blocks, as if some gargantuan force had smashed a complex machine into its component parts. And what components they are, you find stone blocks shaped like letter H's with razor-sharp edges and perfect right angles, as if stamped out by a giant industrial press. You find slabs with rows of identical, precisely drilled holes, spaced with a consistency that suggests the use of a template or a machine tool. The material itself is a familiar challenge, andesite, the same brutally hard volcanic stone used in the walls of Cusco and Ollantaytambo. Yet at Puma Punku, the andesite is joined by diorite, a stone even harder, a stone that modern masons would only work with diamond-tipped tools. The geometric precision here is not just about tight joints, it is about modularity, about creating standardized, interlocking parts on an architectural scale. This is not a style that evolved slowly, it appears fully formed, a technological system of breathtaking sophistication. The connection to the polygonal walls of Peru is undeniable. Both feature the same obsession with precision, the same mastery of difficult materials, and the use of a specific metal clamp shaped like an H to join stones together. Finding the same unique technical solution hundreds of miles apart is like finding the same proprietary screw in two different smartphones. It points to a shared blueprint, a common source of knowledge. This is where the timeline becomes deeply controversial. Mainstream archaeology places the peak of Tiahuanaco, the mother city of Puma Punku, around 500 to 1,000 years after the birth of Christ. But some geologists and alternative researchers point to evidence of catastrophic flooding and geological upheaval that could push the origins of the site back more than 10,000 years, into a period of prehistory we consider primitive. If even a fraction of that earlier date is true, it shatters our conventional understanding of New World civilization. The debate is fierce. Did a central, highly advanced culture at Tiahuanaco send out master masons, spreading their technology across the Andes? Or did multiple cultures, including the Inca and the Tiahuanaco, inherit fragments of a much older pan-Andean knowledge system, a lost golden age of engineering? A third, more conservative view suggests convergent evolution, that different cultures simply arrived at similar solutions to the same engineering problems of moving and shaping stone in a seismic landscape. But convergent evolution rarely produces such identical, specific technical details. The H-clamps, the flawless flatness, the choice of the hardest stones, these feel less like independent invention and more like the signature of a specific school of thought. Puma Punku represents the ultimate expression of this lost technology, pushing the enigma to a point where the very stones seem less like handcrafted artifacts and more like mass-produced components. This forces a staggering implication. Such a pan-Andean technological network could not have existed without a sophisticated method for preserving and transmitting its complex knowledge. The real secret was not in the stone, but in the system that taught them how to command it. How do you teach a craft so complex it seems to defy the very limits of human ability? The perfect angles, the seamless joints, the seismic foresight, all of this had to be learned, practiced, and passed down. In a world without blueprints or engineering textbooks, the transmission of this knowledge was itself a monumental achievement, a chain of wisdom as fragile as it was profound. The most famous system we know of from the region is the Inca Quipu, a complex array of knotted strings. A Quipu was far more than a simple counting device. It was a sophisticated data storage system, recording everything from census data to tribute records through the precise placement, color, and type of knots. Could a Quipu have encoded the architectural plans for a wall at Sacsayhuaman? It is a tantalizing possibility. Perhaps the length of a cord represented a specific measurement, the color of a string indicated the type of stone, and the sequence of knots detailed the complex angles of a polygonal block. While we have not yet deciphered any Quipu to that level of detail, the potential was certainly there. It was a three-dimensional, tactile language, perfectly suited for recording the geometric and numerical data that are the skeleton of great architecture. But a Quipu alone is not enough. You cannot tie a knot that explains the exact pressure needed to polish andesite to a mirror finish. This is where the human element becomes vital, the unbroken chain of master to apprentice. Imagine a young boy, his hands still soft, being guided by an old mason whose fingers are worn smooth from a lifetime of feeling stone. The knowledge would have been passed through direct demonstration, through songs and chants that encoded formulas, through stories that contained the secrets of leverage and balance. This was a guild-like system, a closed circle of artisans who held the sacred trust of their craft. They were the living libraries of their civilization. The precision of this oral and practical tradition is what makes its sudden breakdown so telling. Look at the walls built at the very end of the Inca era or in the early colonial period. The stones are smaller, the joints are wider, filled with crude rubble. The drop in quality is stark and immediate. It tells a story of social catastrophe. When the Spanish conquest shattered the Inca Empire, it did more than just topple a government. It severed the chain of knowledge. The master builders, the keepers of the Quipu records, were killed, displaced, or their apprenticeships were violently interrupted. In a single generation, the ability to build for the ages was simply gone. This rapid erosion points to a chilling possibility. If the Inca themselves could lose this mastery so quickly, how much more was lost by the cultures that came before them? The peak of this technology, seen in the colossal foundations of Ollantaytambo and the shattered perfection of Puma Punku, may represent the work of an earlier culture whose complete system of knowledge the Inca only partially inherited and preserved. We are left with fragments of a grand design, whispering of a time when humanity understood stone not as an obstacle, but as a partner. And this profound loss forces us to look at our own world, to the modern engineers and stonemasons who are now trying, with all the tools of the 21st century, to reclaim what was once known. Our own century's finest tools are put to the ultimate test against these ancient stones. In one well-documented experiment, a crew of skilled stonemasons and engineers attempted to recreate a single section of polygonal wall. They had everything we consider modern advantages: powerful cranes to lift multi-ton blocks, diamond-tipped saws that could slice through granite, and laser levels to check their precision. Yet, after weeks of intense labor, their finished wall was a clear imitation. The joints were visibly wider, the surfaces lacked that mirror-smooth finish, and the entire process required a level of technological intervention the original builders simply did not have. This stark contrast reveals a humbling truth. Our brute force technology is a clumsy substitute for their refined artistry. To get closer to their methods, other researchers have embraced a different challenge. They work with only the tools archaeology confirms were available: stone hammers, copper chisels, and simple abrasives like sand and water. Teams of volunteers will spend months, sometimes years, pecking away at a single andesite block, slowly grinding it down. The results are fascinating, but they highlight an immense practical gap. Yes, you can eventually shape a stone with a harder stone and sand. You can even achieve a reasonably flat surface. But the process is agonizingly slow, consuming thousands of hours for just one block. And the final product never possesses that uncanny, seamless conformity, the complex three-dimensional puzzle fit that makes the ancient walls so earthquake-resistant. The sheer consistency of the original work across thousands of blocks suggests a process that was not just possible, but efficient and repeatable. Our modern replication efforts, whether high-tech or primitive, consistently fail to achieve both the scale and the precision within any believable time frame using the assumed tools. This forces a profound re-evaluation. The ancient builders were not just patient, they were brilliant planners and logisticians. They must have possessed a streamlined, systematic approach, a kind of production line for perfection that we have yet to fully comprehend. Our struggles to copy their work with all our knowledge only deepens the respect for their original, silent accomplishment. This experimental archaeology is a vital lens, but it is not the only one. These silent stones may have been designed to speak with the stars. The field of archaeoastronomy reveals that the walls were not merely physical barriers, but celestial calendars meticulously carved from rock. At the very heart of the Inca Empire stood the Coricancha, the golden temple in Cusco. Its curved walls were once embedded with gold, and it is said that on the June solstice, the rising sun would strike a specific niche, flooding the interior with a beam of light that illuminated a sacred idol. This was not a vague alignment, but a precise astronomical event, a moment when the sun itself was invited into the temple. Similarly, at Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, stands as a masterwork of this celestial science. Its carved angles and pillars are positioned to cast distinct, telling shadows during the solstices and equinoxes, marking the pivotal turning points of the solar year. For a society dependent on agriculture, this knowledge was power. Knowing exactly when to plant and when to harvest was a matter of survival, and these stone instruments provided that critical data with unwavering accuracy. But the purpose went far beyond the practical. The solstice was not just a date on a calendar, it was a spiritual event, a time when the veil between the human and divine worlds was believed to be at its thinnest. By building these alignments into their most sacred architecture, the people were physically connecting their world to the cosmos. A specific window framing the Pleiades star cluster was not just a pretty view, it was a direct line of sight to celestial deities who governed fate and the seasons. This integration shows a world view where science and spirituality were one and the same. To track the slow precession of stars over centuries required a deep, generational understanding of mathematics and geometry. They had to project complex celestial movements onto the static landscape of their mountains, translating the fluid dance of the heavens into the fixed angles of their stonework. The very precision that makes the joints earthquake-proof is the same precision that allows a sliver of light to hit a target only one day each year. This suggests their architectural genius was not just about moving mountains, but about mapping the sky itself, creating an eternal bond between the earth below and the heavens above. These walls are a form of frozen mathematics. Look past the sheer mass of the stone and you begin to see a complex geometric equation, a three-dimensional proof carved in andesite and granite. The builders were not just stacking rocks, they were solving problems in structural engineering using principles we still rely on today. The most visible expression of this is the trapezoid. Doors, windows, and niches are almost never simple rectangles. This shape is a masterpiece of intuitive physics. A trapezoid, wider at the base and narrower at the top, naturally channels weight down and outward, distributing immense compressive forces safely into the ground. It is inherently stable, resisting the seismic shaking that would collapse a sheer, vertical wall. This is a brilliant application of understanding the center of gravity and load distribution. But the geometry goes far deeper than shape. Researchers have identified the potential use of sacred ratios, like the golden ratio, in the layout of these sites. The golden ratio, often represented by the Greek letter phi, is an irrational number approximately equal to 1.618. It appears throughout nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the arrangement of leaves on a stem, and it is universally perceived as aesthetically pleasing. Finding this proportion governing the relationships between plazas, temples, and walls suggests the builders were encoding a fundamental law of harmony into their architecture, blending beauty with unshakable strength. This mathematical backbone is also visible in the masonry styles themselves. The two primary techniques, ashlar and polygonal, are both exercises in precision geometry. Ashlar masonry uses rectangular blocks cut to uniform sizes, laid in neat horizontal courses. This requires a mastery of right angles and parallel lines. Polygonal masonry, the more famous style, uses irregular, multi-sided blocks that fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. Creating this requires an even more advanced understanding of geometry. The ability to calculate compound angles and custom fit each unique stone to its neighbors without a single guiding blueprint. The consistency is what is most telling. The same specific angles, the same proportional relationships, appear in walls hundreds of miles apart. This points to a standardized system of measurement and design, a universal builder's code that was taught, understood, and applied across the Andes. They were using a shared language of form and function. Such sophisticated design is not born from simple trial and error. It implies a developed system of theoretical knowledge, a formal understanding of mathematics and physics that was passed down through a rigorous education. The intellectual achievement is staggering, forcing us to ask where else in the ancient world we can find a parallel to this fusion of stone and science. The mathematical perfection of the Andes is not a lonely phenomenon on our planet. Scattered across the globe, from remote islands to ancient deserts, stand other monuments that speak the same silent language of impossible stone. On the wind-swept plains of Easter Island, the massive stone heads, or moai, are only the most visible part of the story. Their foundations are immense stone platforms called ahu, built with colossal blocks fitted together using the same polygonal, mortar-less technique, a striking echo of the walls in Peru thousands of miles away. Journey to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, and you will find the platform of Baalbek. Here, the largest carved stones in the world, the famous trilithon, rest. Each of these 3 blocks weighs an estimated 800 tons, and they are nestled together with a precision that would be a challenge for modern engineers. Even in Egypt, beneath the shadow of the pyramids at Abydos, lies the Osirian, a mysterious subterranean structure built with cyclopean red granite blocks, perfectly joined without mortar. The parallels are too specific to ignore. In each of these widely separated cultures, builders chose to work with the hardest stones available: granite, basalt, and andesite. They moved blocks weighing hundreds of tons, and they fit them together with joints so tight that in many cases not even a blade can pass through. They all arrived at this same incredibly difficult, yet incredibly effective architectural solution. So we are left with a profound historical puzzle. Why would cultures that supposedly never met, separated by vast oceans and millennia, all develop such a similar and advanced approach to stonework? One compelling argument is convergent evolution. This theory suggests that when different human societies face the same fundamental engineering problems, building structures to last for eternity, they can independently arrive at similar solutions. The need for stability in earthquake zones, the desire for permanence, and the limitations of their available tools might have pushed them all toward the logical conclusion of large, interlocking blocks. It is the path of greatest structural integrity, yet the sheer specificity of the technique, the consistent choice of polygonal shapes and perfect fits, gives one pause. It is one thing to independently invent the wheel, a relatively simple shape. It is another to independently invent the exact same formula for a complex, multi-variable equation in structural engineering. This has led to a more controversial but fascinating line of inquiry. Could these similarities point to a common but now lost source of knowledge? Perhaps there was not a single super-civilization, but a forgotten thread of architectural and geometric understanding that wove its way through the ancient world, influencing master builders from the Andes to the Levant. This would explain the shared technical fingerprints, the same preference for seismic-proof designs, and the same almost spiritual reverence for the stone itself. The global pattern does not provide easy answers, but it magnifies the question, transforming a regional mystery into a global one. It forces us to look beyond the stones themselves, to the deeper currents of human ingenuity and the tantalizing possibility of a connection we can no longer see. When every earthly explanation seems to fall short, the mind reaches for the stars. This is the territory of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, a controversial idea that steps in where archaeology leaves questions hanging. Proponents like author Erich von Däniken look at the Andean walls and see something beyond human history. They argue that the laser-like precision, the impossible logistics of moving 100-ton blocks, and the sheer scale of the work point to a technology that should not have existed. How could a primitive culture, they ask, achieve such feats without some form of external, advanced instruction? Some even point to peculiar marks on certain stones, grooves and cuts that they claim resemble the scorching or slicing of powerful, unknown tools, perhaps even energy-based devices far beyond simple chisels. For many, this theory fills an explanatory void, offering a dramatic answer to a mystery that conventional science has yet to fully solve. It speaks to a deep public desire for a definitive solution, a story that matches the awe we feel when standing before these monumental ruins. Yet, this idea is met with fierce resistance from the archaeological community. Skeptics argue that invoking extraterrestrials is not just a leap of logic, but an insult to human ingenuity. They maintain that the hypothesis is a classic example of an argument from ignorance. Simply because we cannot yet replicate their methods perfectly does not mean they had help from beyond our world. These critics emphasize that human beings are profoundly resourceful and capable of staggering collective achievements, from the pyramids of Giza to the cathedrals of Europe, all built with patience, intelligence, and immense labor. The ancient astronaut theory, while culturally impactful, ultimately forces a valuable re-examination of the evidence. It pushes us to look closer, to question our assumptions, and to demand more rigorous answers. And beyond the realm of speculation, there are tangible, scientific methods now being used to probe these very secrets, techniques that can finally give a voice to the silent stones. We no longer need to rely on guesswork alone to understand these walls. Modern science is now peering directly into the stone itself, using tools that would seem like magic to the original builders. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy deep into the earth, painting a picture of what lies beneath the surface without ever lifting a trowel. These scans have revealed hidden chambers and entire subterranean networks, suggesting that the visible structures are only the tip of a much larger architectural iceberg. Meanwhile, LiDAR technology uses laser pulses from aircraft to strip away the dense forest canopy, digitally mapping the ground below. This has led to stunning discoveries, exposing the vast footprints of forgotten cities and intricate road systems that show these sites were not isolated wonders, but part of a connected, continent-spanning civilization. Back at the walls themselves, three-dimensional laser scanners are performing a different kind of magic. They capture the surfaces with sub-millimeter accuracy, creating perfect digital twins of the ancient stonework. This allows researchers to study the geometry and wear patterns in ways never before possible. They can run seismic simulations on a computer model, watching how stress flows through the interlocking blocks during a virtual earthquake. They can analyze the subtle erosion on a specific angle, calculating how many centuries of wind and rain it took to form. This digital precision is revealing the true genius of the design, confirming that every curve and angle was a deliberate choice for both strength and stability. The stones are also telling us where they came from. Mineralogical analysis involves taking tiny samples and examining their unique geochemical fingerprint. Every quarry has a distinct signature, a blend of trace elements and isotopes that acts like a geological barcode. By matching a block from a wall to its source quarry, scientists can map out ancient supply chains with incredible accuracy. We now know that some stones traveled over 50 miles from their origin, crossing impossible terrain. This data transforms the logistical puzzle from a myth into a quantifiable challenge, forcing us to reconsider the sheer organizational power required to move such mass across a broken landscape. From the microscopic level, we zoom out to a cosmic perspective. High-resolution satellite imagery and drone photography survey vast areas, identifying subtle patterns in the vegetation and soil that hint at buried walls and plazas. These technologies are revealing the staggering scale of ancient land management, showing terraces and canals that supported populations far larger than previously believed. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. Yet, for all this data, the interpretation remains a vibrant, often heated debate. The same laser scan that proves the perfect fit of a joint can be used by a mainstream archaeologist to argue for patient human labor, and by a proponent of lost technology to argue for machine-like precision. Science provides the hard evidence, but the story we build from that evidence is still being written, layer by digital layer, slowly rewriting the history of the Andes. 1,000 years of Andean wind has smoothed the faces of these stones, yet the joints between them remain as tight as the day they were set. This is not a story of simple endurance, but a complex dialogue between a masterful design and a brutal environment. The high-altitude climate is a relentless engine of decay, subjecting the walls to daily extremes. Freezing temperatures at night lock moisture within microscopic pores, and the morning sun causes a rapid thaw, a cycle of expansion and contraction that can pulverize ordinary stone over centuries. Intense ultraviolet radiation bombards the surfaces, breaking down mineral bonds. Torrential seasonal rains then scour the rock, seeking out any weakness to exploit. Yet the polygonal walls stand firm. Their secret lies in the very precision that defines them. The seamless joints prevent water from seeping into the core of the structure, channeling it quickly down the face of the wall instead of letting it pool and freeze within. The complex interlocking shapes distribute the stresses of thermal expansion evenly across the entire surface, so no single block bears the full force alone. You can see the proof of this in stark contrast at many sites. Look at the Spanish colonial buildings constructed directly on top of these ancient foundations. The colonial walls, built with square blocks and simple mortar, are often cracked, crumbling, and heavily eroded. The mortar has washed away, and the stones themselves have weathered deeply. Meanwhile, the megalithic foundations they rest upon show only a gentle rounding on their exposed edges, their structural integrity completely untouched by the same millennium of abuse. This divergence is a silent but powerful scientific testimony. Geologists are now learning to read these stones like a clock. They measure the thickness of the weathering rind, a thin layer of chemically altered rock that forms on the surface over time. They map the growth of specific species of lichen, whose colonization and spread occur at predictable rates. These techniques are helping to provide more accurate dates for the construction, independently verifying that these walls are far older than the later additions that are so clearly failing around them. The resilience of these structures is a form of passive proof. It demonstrates that the builders possessed a profound understanding of their environment, anticipating the very forces that would try to destroy their work and designing a system to neutralize them. They were not just building for their present, they were engineering for a future they would never see. This legacy of foresight, however, is now confronting a new and unpredictable threat, one born from our own modern world. 1,000 years of weather could not damage these walls, but a single human touch carries a new kind of threat. The very awe that draws millions of visitors to these sites now poses one of their greatest dangers. As countless hands press against the ancient stones, the natural oils from our skin slowly accumulate, interacting with the mineral surface and accelerating erosion in a way the elements never could. This is the silent crisis of preservation, a modern dilemma where admiration risks destruction. The pressures are immense and multifaceted. Unchecked urban sprawl creeps ever closer to archaeological zones, its vibrations and pollution subtly destabilizing foundations that have withstood earthquakes. Climate change introduces new extremes of rainfall and drought, testing the brilliant hydrological systems the builders put in place. Perhaps most heartbreaking are the well-intentioned but disastrous restoration attempts, where modern cement is slathered over ancient joints. This rigid material traps moisture and creates incompatible stress points, causing more damage than it prevents. To combat these threats, a global framework for protection has emerged. Organizations like UNESCO designate these locations as World Heritage Sites, a status that provides international recognition and access to conservation funds. This global standing helps local and national governments implement crucial safeguards. At heavily visited sites like Machu Picchu, you now find controlled access paths that direct the flow of foot traffic, strict daily visitor limits to prevent overcrowding, and the promotion of digital preservation through detailed virtual tours. These tools allow global access without physical wear, ensuring the sites can be studied and appreciated long after we are gone. Yet, the most vital layer of protection comes from the living culture that surrounds these stones. The involvement of indigenous Quechua communities in the stewardship of their ancestral heritage is fundamental. Their deep, generational connection to the land provides an invaluable perspective on the spiritual and practical significance of these places, guiding conservation efforts with a wisdom that external experts alone cannot offer. Protecting these walls is about far more than saving impressive rocks. It is about safeguarding a unique chapter of human intellectual and cultural achievement, a testament to what our species can accomplish when knowledge, artistry, and a profound respect for the earth are fused into a single purpose. The responsibility for their care extends beyond governments and institutions, falling upon every one of us who bears witness to their mystery. This collective stewardship demands more than just passive observation. It requires a continual re-evaluation of what we think we know, pushing us to listen more closely to the silent story the stones are trying to tell. A single, perfectly fitted stone can unravel the entire story we tell ourselves about the past. We have been taught that human technology is a ladder, a steady climb from simple stone tools to complex machinery. Yet here in the Andes, that ladder is broken. These walls represent a technological peak, an apex of engineering that appears in the archaeological record fully formed, only to be followed by a clear and undeniable decline. The later Inca constructions, while impressive, are demonstrably cruder than the polygonal foundations they built upon. This is not a story of linear progress, but one of brilliant flashes of innovation and profound loss. The concept of lost knowledge moves from a romantic idea to a tangible reality when you stand before a wall that modern engineers cannot replicate. It forces us to accept that a civilization can achieve staggering sophistication in a specific domain, like seismic-resistant stonemasonry, without the need for a full industrial base. They did not need steel or electricity to accomplish what we, with all our power, still struggle to understand. Their mastery was focused, deep, and utterly effective. This evidence compels historians to consider more complex models of human development. Perhaps history is not a straight line, but a series of cycles, with cultures rising to incredible heights, only to collapse and see their most advanced techniques forgotten. A pandemic, a civil war, a sudden climate shift, any of these could sever the fragile chain of apprenticeship and oral tradition, dooming a technology to oblivion. These silent walls are not passive relics. They are active participants in a fierce historical debate, their very existence a challenge to every textbook that presents a simple, upward trajectory for humanity. They remind us that our understanding of the past is always provisional, a best guess based on the fragments that survive. What other secrets lie buried, not under the soil, but in the gaps of our own knowledge? The re-evaluation has only just begun. The perfect joints of these walls are a confession of our own ignorance. We can map them with lasers and analyze their minerals, yet we must stand before them and admit that the most fundamental questions about their creation remain unanswered. What was the exact step-by-step process for cutting and fitting the stones? We understand the theory of abrasion, but how was such flawless surface conformity achieved on such a massive scale, block after block, without a single guiding blueprint? The process remains a ghost, a set of movements and techniques lost to time. Then there is the matter of the true giants, the blocks weighing over 100 tons. How were these behemoths transported across miles of broken terrain, across rivers and up steep valleys, and then positioned with such hair-trigger accuracy? The logistics defy our most careful reconstructions, leaving a gap in our understanding as vast as the stones themselves. The haunting stylistic echoes of Puma Punku only deepen the puzzle. Are these similarities evidence of a direct connection, a shared team of master masons traveling the Andes, or do they point to a deeper, older school of knowledge that influenced both cultures? We see the same technical fingerprints, but we cannot yet read the story they tell, and this leads to the most foundational question of all. Who precisely were the first builders of the finest polygonal walls? Were they the direct ancestors of the Inca, the Tiahuanaco, or a people whose name has been utterly lost to history? We have layers of occupation, but the original architects remain shrouded in mystery, their identity as seamless and impenetrable as their masonry. This honest appraisal is not an endpoint. It is the starting point for all future inquiry. Each discovery, each answered question, seems to reveal two new and more complex puzzles in its place. This enduring enigma is not a failure of science, but the very quality that keeps these stones alive. They are not dead ruins, but active participants in a conversation across centuries, and their unanswered questions are the fuel that will power the next generation of explorers. The legends whispered by the elders speak of a time when giants walked the earth, moving mountains with their bare hands. These are not mere fairy tales, but the living voice of a culture trying to explain the inexplicable. The Inca spoke of Viracocha, the creator god, who summoned a race of giants to raise the great walls in a single, miraculous night. To dismiss this as pure fantasy is to ignore a potential codex of hidden history. Ethnographers who study these stories suggest they are powerful metaphors, a way to encode complex truths in a memorable narrative. The idea of giants could be a symbolic representation of the immense collective labor required, a society unified in a Herculean effort. The theme of construction happening in a single night might not be literal, but a cultural memory of a highly efficient, almost incomprehensibly rapid building process, a feat so advanced it seemed like magic to later generations. This recurring narrative of a golden age, a time when gods walked among men and wonders were commonplace, echoes the archaeological evidence of a peak in technological prowess that was later lost. The myths and the stones are two halves of the same story. When the legend says Viracocha commanded the stones to move themselves, could this be a garbled transmission of a real, but forgotten, technique for reducing friction or manipulating weight? The stories become a different kind of excavation site, where each layer of narrative might conceal a fragment of factual truth. These oral traditions are a testament to the sheer awe the original constructions inspired, an awe so powerful it could only be explained through the divine. They remind us that these sites were never just piles of rock, but places imbued with profound spiritual meaning, their origins already shrouded in mystery for the people who inherited them centuries later. Listening to the whispers of myth does not require abandoning science, but rather using it to listen more carefully to the human experience behind the mystery. This cultural memory, passed down through countless generations, is a fragile resource as vital as any laser scan or mineral analysis, for it holds the key to how the builders themselves wished to be remembered. The next great discovery about these walls may not come from a shovel, but from a supercomputer. We are entering an era where the secrets of the Andes will be probed by technologies that sound like science fiction. Imagine using subatomic particles called muons, which constantly rain down from the atmosphere, to create X-ray-like images of entire mountainsides. Muon tomography can peer deep into the stone, revealing hidden chambers and internal structures without disturbing a single grain of soil. This could finally show us what lies sealed within the foundations of Sacsayhuaman or beneath the plaza at Puma, Punku. At the same time, artificial intelligence is being trained to see what human eyes miss. Advanced pattern recognition algorithms can analyze thousands of high-resolution images of the stonework, identifying subtle, repeating marks that might be the signature of a specific tool or a standardized measurement system. These AI systems could cross-reference construction styles across hundreds of sites, mapping the spread of techniques with a speed and accuracy no single researcher could ever match. The very soil of these sites holds another kind of code. The emerging field of environmental DNA analysis allows scientists to take a sample of dirt and sequence the genetic fragments within it. This is not about finding the bones of kings, but the invisible traces of the workers themselves. By analyzing ancient human DNA from the soil of a quarry or a work camp, we could learn about the diet, health, and geographic origins of the laborers who moved these mountains. Were they a local workforce or were specialists brought from distant regions, suggesting a vast, organized network? Computational modeling offers another powerful lens. Engineers can now build incredibly detailed digital simulations of the construction process. They can test the physics of moving a 200-ton block up a mountainside, calculating the exact number of workers, the optimal angle of ropes, and the point at which the granite would fracture. These virtual experiments can systematically eliminate theories that are physically impossible, narrowing the search for the one true method the builders used. The theoretical frameworks are evolving just as rapidly. Instead of simple stories of one culture conquering another, historians are building more nuanced models of interaction. They see the Andes as a vast network of knowledge exchange, where ideas about geometry and construction diffused along trade routes were adapted by different cultures and were refined over centuries. This was not a single invention that was then lost, but a living tradition that was shared, improved, and eventually fragmented. The potential for a monumental new find remains incredibly high. Vast, remote regions of the Andes are still largely unexplored, their secrets hidden by dense cloud forest or treacherous terrain. LiDAR technology is only beginning to scan these areas, and each new survey holds the potential to reveal a completely unknown city, a site that could be the missing link in the entire story. The future of this mystery lies at the intersection of these tools, a collaboration between the physicist with her muon detector, the geneticist with his sequencer, and the archaeologist who listens to the local legends. The next decade promises to be the most revealing chapter yet in this ancient story. The silent stones have kept their secrets for a millennium, but a new generation of explorers is finally learning how to listen. The final mystery of these walls is not how they were built, but what they mean for us today. We stand before them with all our modern knowledge, and they quietly challenge the very story we tell about human progress. They are not ruins, but a question carved in stone, asking us to reconsider the capabilities of our ancestors and the potential for knowledge to be lost. Each perfect joint is a testament to a genius that we recognize but cannot fully replicate, a silent conversation between their time and ours. This journey does not end with a neat solution, but with a deeper, more resonant wonder. It reminds us that history is not a list of settled facts, but a living, breathing mystery, constantly being rewritten by new evidence and new perspectives. These stones are a bridge connecting our modern curiosity to the minds of those who saw no boundary between art and science, between the earth and the stars. We have explored the limits of engineering and imagination, and the walls remain, holding their secrets close. What do you believe is their greatest untold story? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you are drawn to the world's great enigmas, subscribe to join us on our next exploration. The past is not finished speaking, and the quest for understanding is a journey